Hello and welcome to this ultimate Zamazenta guide video. Today we will take a look at Zamazenta, at all the sets it can play, why the one set you see all the time is always making the best performances. We will take a look at the best partners. I will present you a ton of sets, and then at the end of the video we will take a look at Zamazenta's matchups against the other restricteds. But let's start with Zamazenta sets first. So first of all, the most consistent set. You will see this one every single time. No matter where you go, this set will always make day 2 at an event. It's Body Press, Heavy Slam, Wide Guard, Protect with Terra Dragon or Terra Grass. Why is Zamazenta so good in the current meta? Wide Guard is just a phenomenal move, first of all, because with Wide Guard you can shut down Calyrex Ice Glacial Lance, Calyrex Shadow, Astral Barrage, Miraidon Dazzling Gleam, Chi-Yu Heatwave, Chi-Yu Snarl, Water Spout, Origin Pulse, Precipice Blades, Terra Starstorm. There are so many good spread moves, and that's why Wide Guard is a move that is really valuable in a restricted format. The problem is most Pokemon that learn Wide Guard are not really good. There are like Pelipper, Mienshao, Smeargle, all of them don't have the highest usage, so that's why having Wide Guard on a Pokemon that can also stay longer on the field, because Pelipper is frail on the special side, Smeargle is super frail, Mienshao is frail, while Zamazenta has a ton of bulk. You see the stats, 92 HP with 140 defense and 140 special defense is just really good for a Pokemon that want to stay longer on the field. Especially with Body Press. In this generation, Zamazenta got the addition of a new move, Body Press, and that move takes the user's defense instead of the attack stat, and it's still a physical move. Combined with the Dauntless Shield, you get a really strong move, even though Body Press only has 80 base power. Because, as you can see, we invest a lot into defense because Body Press is just our main way of damage, and with the Dauntless Shield, we technically have a defense stat of 315, which makes Body Press just super strong. You can one-hit KO Incineroar, you one-hit KO Chi-Yu, that is not even close, but the cool part is that you also don't get intimidated by Incineroar because you use your defense instead of your attack stat. I really recommend running Heavy Slam instead of Behemoth Bash. I saw people running Behemoth Bash, and that's just wrong. Yes, you do more damage to Calyrex Ice as well as Raging Bolt, because otherwise Terra Fairy, Raging Bolt as well as Terra Fairy Cali Ice are pretty good into Zamazenta, but those Pokemon should not be a big problem for you, for your remaining team, and that's why I think it's just bad to play Behemoth Bash, because the problems are Shadow Rider with Terra Fairy Covered Cloak compared with Incineroar and Clefairy, and against Clefairy and Shadow Rider you lose on damage if you play Behemoth Bash. Against Amoonguss or Terra Ghost Incineroar, like neutral targets, you also want to run Heavy Slam and not Behemoth Bash. Whimsicott is a Pokemon that survives a Behemoth Bash if it is max HP, but it doesn't survive a Heavy Slam, and that's why you should run Heavy Slam. I understand the thought of Behemoth Bash, because Behemoth Bash is just more consistent. You also have 20 more base power against Miraidon, for example, because Miraidon Heavy Slam only has a 80 base power, while Behemoth Bash is 100, but trust me, I'm the Zamazenta guy. I really recommend running Heavy Slam. This investment here, which you can see on the screen, is really good to outspeed Ogapon and Tornadus. You definitely have to outspeed Mienshao, because there are Mienshao Shadow Rider teams where you just have no matchup if your Zamazenta is slower than the Mienshao. So 173 speed is the speeds that you have to run at least. And why not just outspeed Ogapon Cornerstone, as well as max speed Ogapon Halflame, as well as Tornadoes, because you can double up on those with, let's say, the most common partner, spoiler, is Jianpao. You can go for Icicle Crash, Body Press into Ogapon Cornerstone before it can move. If your Zamazenta is slower, they can go for IV Kache before you get a Body Press off. That's not good, and that's why I really recommend running max speed on Zamazenta. You could obviously run more HP invest and less defense, but keep in mind that every single point you take out of defense weakens your body press, and you really don't want that, because then the physical defensive Incineroar, which we can see because they want to survive Surging Strikes, they would survive a body press if you play less defense on your Zamazenta. I will still present you one other spread on the Iron Defense set, but that's all you need to know about Zamazenta. Which Terra should you play, Dragon or Grass? Dragon is more consistent, because the problem you have with Grass, yes, you get an immunity to Amoonguss, but you take a lot from Sludge Bomb. Also, Pollen Puff is super effective then. So Grass only really helps out against Spore and Rage Powder. Still not a bad idea, but the problem with Grass is that you keep the fire weakness. So if you face down a Chi-Yu or Ogapon Halflame, they can always go for Ivy Kache or Overheat into your Zamazenta, and they don't have to worry about anything. Terra Dragon is really good to shut down water types like Surging Strikes Urshifu and Water Spout Kyogre. And at the same time, you get the fire resistance against Chi-Yu and Ogapon Halflame. And you also keep a grass resistance, because some people play Terra Water, but then you are weak to stuff like Rillaboom and the grass moves from the Ogapon. And yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. Dragon is the most consistent one. You can play Terra Grass if you pair Zamazenta with Pelipper, because Pelipper can deal with the fire weakness and also deal offensive. Like Pelipper has the Drizzle ability to shut down fire moves, but it also threatens the fire type Pokemon with Weather Ball, for example. So Terra Grass, really just an option if you run Pelipper, in my opinion. But yeah, that's all about this Zamazenta set. There's also an Iron Defense set where you sometimes see Terra Water. Terra Water is good because you still resist water and fire, which you really want, but you are not weak to Fairy Wren. So Terra Water helps against combination of Chi-Yu and Fluttermane, because with Terra Water there's no way that Chi-Yu and Fluttermane can KO Zamazenta, while with Terra Dragon obviously Fluttermane has a super effective Moonblast. But without Terra Water, or with Terra Water, you are obviously also weak to Electric, so you have to be a little more careful against Iron Hands, because Iron Hands can always hit you for super effective damage, as well as Raging Bolt can always click Thunderbolt, while with Terra Dragon, yes, you get a Dragon weakness, but maybe you're in range for Thunderclap, or they want to deal as much damage as possible with Thunderbolt, then you can click Terra Dragon and prevent that from happening. But yeah, the Iron Defense set, I thought you can play less defense on it. This is my spread I used at Worlds. I did not run Iron Defense at Worlds. I ran this spread with Body Press, Heavy Slam, White Cup, Protect at Worlds, but because of the meta trends right now, because of Incineroar going physically defensive, Zamazenta was forced to play more defense as well, and this kind of spread still works, because you can boost your defense even further with Iron Defense, and you have a little more special bulk, kind of, if you run more HP. And that's why I thought this spread is not bad. I still recommend running max speed for Tornadus and Ograpon. You can also maybe outspeed some Miraidon that way, so that's pretty cool. And on this set, you see Behemoth Bash more often, funnily enough, because with this set, most of the time after +2 or like after an Iron Defense you are +3, your body press is stronger than a neutral heavy slam. So it's just about hitting the super effective stuff, and that's where Terra Fairy, Kelly Ice, as well as Terra Fairy Raging Bolt comes into play, but I would still recommend running Heavy Slam. The interesting part is about the last move. Do you want to run White Guard? Do you want to run Protect, or maybe even Substitute? Substitute is really sweet into Will-O-Wisp, Terra Ghost, Incineroar, because you shut down Incineroar completely, and you also shut down Amoonguss completely. So you might ask, why do not a lot of players run Substitute on Zamazenta? The problem is losing health on your Zamazenta is not amazing, and not having Protect is also not great, because then your opponent can always freely attack in your Zamazenta and they don't have to worry about anything. And that's why we don't see Substitute that often. Against some Pokemon and some matchups, Substitute can be really game-changing, though. We sometimes still see White Guard on the Iron Defense set, because, as I said, White Guard is just the best move, and Iron Defense White Guard can work. I'm not a big fan of it. In general, the Iron Defense set is definitely weaker than the White Guard Protect one. Okay, sorry about the little cut. Somebody rang on my doorbell. So Iron Defense is good into matchups that feature a ton of physical attackers, but there are just matchups where Iron Defense is just worse, because Shadow Rider, Miraidon, I guess even Terrapagos, you don't want to run Iron Defense. You want to run White Guard and Protect instead. I still wanted to feature that set because it can have some nice interactions. If you predict your opponent, for example, to bring Ice Rider, for sure, if you are in a team tournament, this is where Iron Defense can be really clutch. Obviously also helps in the mirror, but in the mirror you also want to run Protect. So in the mirror you kind of run Body Press, Heavy Slam, Iron Defense, Protect, but if your opponent has a Chi-Yu or a Dazzling Gleam Flutter Mane, you again miss out on White Guard, so it's just really tricky. So that's why the other set is more consistent. And about Zamazenta in general, the cool part is you rarely switch. You just stay on the field and you just trade damage. You just spam body press and hope for the best, and it works. At least it worked for me, and it's a playstyle that is different than the others. Like with Miraidon, you want to deal as much damage as possible. With Terrapagos, it's about that setup stuff, and with Zamazenta, it's just about trading damage, and that is really cool. And there are even better partners for Zamazenta that can help win these damage trades. So let's take a look at Zamazenta's partners. So the best partners for Zamazenta are Pokemon that can punish Ghost types. And Ghost type punishers are mainly Ghost and Dark type Pokemon, because they have step moves that threaten exactly this kind of Pokemon. And you don't only threaten Ghost types, you also threaten Psychic types, which are both types that Body Press is weak into, or it doesn't work at all. Against Flying and Bug types you can also find solutions, but you really want to punish Ghost types, because even resisted Body Press deals a ton of damage, and if the Body Press is immune, yeah, you need something that can deal with those pesky Ghost types, especially Shadow Rider, Terrestrialized Incineroar. So let's take a look at which Pokemon can do exactly that. First of all, Chien-Pao. Chien-Pao has a neat interaction with Sword of Wind. You might think, oh, Sword of Wind lowers the defense of all Pokemon on the field, so your Body Press will also do less damage. But the Body Press damage formula works like the body press damage is calculated. This defense stat switches to the attack stat of Zamazenta when you click body press, and that's why body press is not affected by Sword of Ruin, which means your body press does not do the same damage when Qianpao is on the field. It does more damage, even though Qianpao is on the field, which is a little weird, but that's why Qianpao is a prime partner for Zamazenta, because you boost your body press damage even though you lower all defenses on the field. I hope I made clear what that means, and because of that, Qianpao boosts Zamazenta and it punishes the ghost types I just mentioned, and that's why it's a prime partner. You can run both Icy Crash and Ice Spinner. Ice Spinner helps for Miraidon, but since some Qianpao teams have Rillaboom on the team as well, you can run Icy Crash so that you don't remove your own grass terrain. And also, Icicle Crash helps into Rocky Helmet Amoonguss, because without Icicle Crash you only have contact moves, which makes it annoying to play against Amoonguss because it's the most common item, Rocky Helmet, and you lose your sash because of that. There's also Rocky Helmet Incineroar. Spiky Shield from Ogapon is another big one, because if they click Spiky Shield, you lose your focus sash, and that's why if you have Icicle Crash, you don't have to worry about that. But if you don't have Rillaboom on the team, Miraidon can get a little tricky, and that's why Ice Spinner is also a good choice. So just make sure which move you want to play based on how your Miraidon matchup is. Sometimes people also play Ice Spinner even when they have Rillaboom on the team, because they are just so scared of Miraidon, which is understandable. But Icy Crash is just the better move. Some people are also afraid of missing, but keeping your focus sash against Rocky Helmet and Spiky Shield is just way more important in my opinion. And you can also get a flinch with Icy Crash as well, which can also win you the game. So in my opinion, Icy Crash is better, but Ice Spinner is just more consistent. Then you run Sucker Punch and Protect out of obvious reasons, and Crunch or Throat Chop. Crunch really helps to get death drops, and Throat Chop prevents the opponent from using Parting Shot with Incineroar, which doesn't happen that often, to be fair. You prevent Sing from Clefairy. It's an option, yes, but you should remove Clefairy as fast as possible anyways. You prevent Hyper Voice from Farigiraf and from Ursaluna Blood Moon. Okay, I guess. Not a ton of Farigiraf are playing Hyper Voice though, and Ursaluna Blood Moon usage also kinda plummeted. So yeah, and you block Psychic Noise from Farigiraf. Nowadays they are leaning more towards Psychic, but you can block Psychic Noise for maybe your Amoonguss as a partner, so that Farigiraf cannot hit the Amoonguss anymore, and then you can Spore everything, I guess. But yeah, the 20% death drop can also come up, so it's again a matter of what you really want to click and how you feel in certain matchups. Do you see yourself being threatened by Sing Clefairy? Then run Throat Chop. Do you see yourself winning games because of defense drops? Then go for Crunch. And 20% is not that low, so that's why I played Throat Chop at Worlds and Crunch now. Just a matter of how you feel for your matchups. And the spread is just max speed, max attack, 4 in defense. Do not put 4 into HP or special defense, because with 4 defense you always survive Surging Strikes from Urshifu. If you run 4 HP, Surging Strikes gets a roll, so please just run 4 defense. You have a focus sash, so yeah. Qianpao, really good because I already mentioned to punish Psychic and Ghost types, but Qianpao also punishes flying types that resist body press. For example, Tornadus, you can click Ice Spinner into, and they do not resist body press anymore. That's why Ice Dark Fighting is so strong offensively. Also, Chiempo punishes Amoonguss, which is another really good check to Zamazenta, but with Ice coverage, it is not anymore. Another good partner is Fluttermane, and on Fluttermane you have a ton of options, as you can see here. The most used Terra type is Terra Grass, because if you have Zamazenta and Fluttermane on the field, you want something that is immune to Rage Powder, otherwise the Amoonguss can redirect all moves all day long, and that's why Terra Grass is a really good option on Fluttermane. You also resist Searching Strikes from Urshifu. Do they click close combat into your Fluttermane? I doubt it. You also resist the moves from Raging Bolt, as well as surviving something like Heavy Slam from Iron Hands, because Fluttermane is a Pokemon you bring in the Miraidon matchup, and with Terra Grass you can take Electro Drifts, Volt Switches, Wild Charge, Heavy Slam from Iron Hands, which you cannot do with something like Terra Fairy or Terra Normal. Terra Normal is still cool, because that way, if you have Zamazenta and Fluttermane on the field, the Shadow Rider player has to make decisions, because Astral Barrage is not as free anymore, because you only hit one Pokemon at a time. You still have White Guard on your Zamazenta, and that's why we don't see that much Terra Normal on Fluttermane, but it's an option for sure. And move-wise, Taunt is really good to shut down Redirection, as well as Amoonguss in general, but also good into Clefairy, as well as Ogerpon, because Redirection is something that is really annoying for Zamazenta, because Zamazenta doesn't have a broken 120 step move. Instead, Zamazenta has to deal with single target attacks, and that's why stopping Redirection can be valuable. You want one type of speed control. It's either Icy Wind or Thunder Wave, in my opinion. Some players actually also play both Thunder Wave and Icy Wind, and I can see that, because Thunder Wave is always a good move. What should I tell you? The full para chance is always there, and Icy Wind also does not work on some Pokemon like Covered Cloak, Shadow Rider, for example. If you want to drop down the speed from Covered Cloak, Terra Fairy, Shadow Rider, so that you can Heavy Slam it, it does not work with Icy Wind, just with T-Wave. The problem with T-Wave is that move can get redirected, Icy Wind can't. So it's a matter of, again, how you play, because I think in general, when you make choices, it's about your playstyle. I present you all possibilities you can go for, and I can tell you this is better, this is worse, but it's just a personal preference thing, because for me, Thunder Wave is worse, because with Thunder Wave you do not break the Focus Sash from Urshifu, and you get hit by Redirection. But again, some people do not like Icy Wind, they like Thunder Wave more. Totally valid. Shadow Ball is nice to threaten the ghost types like Terra Ghost Incineroar, Calyrex Shadow Rider. You can also hit Calyrex Ice Rider for super effective damage, and that's why I played Shadow Ball on my Fluttermane, because I really liked threatening the ghost types. This spread is the spread I played at Worlds, because with 28 special attack you one-hit KO Terra Ghost Urshifu with Shadow Ball, because Choice Scarf Urshifu plays Terra Ghost a lot, and that's why Shadow Ball is also good again, because if you play Moonblast, Thunder Wave, Icy Wind, you have no way to one-hit KO Terra Ghost Urshifu, and that way, if they don't Terra, you have Moonblast. If they Terra, you have Shadow Ball. And that's what the 28 special attack are for. With 196 HP and 140 defense, you survive an Icicle Crash from Chiempo. You survive a Terra Stellar Jolly Sucker Punch from Chiempo. You survive a Searching Strikes. You survive a combination of Aqua Jet Sucker Punch from Urshifu Chiempo. You survive Terra Water Aqua Jet plus Booster Energy Thunderclap from Raging Bolt Urshifu. You survive an Aqua Jet Terra Electric Thunderclap from Booster Energy, Raging Bolt. You survive an Astral Barrage from Shadow Rider most of the time, if they are not damage boosting, if they are just Cover Cloak. You survive 2 Terra Fairy Dazzling Gleam outside of Electric Terrain from Miraidon. You survive just a lot of stuff. And you outspeed Kyogre, Modest, and Tailwind by 1 point, because we hit a speed stat of 285. Modest makes speed Kyogre, and Tailwind has 284. And you also outspeed every Warring Moon out there, and that's why this spread is just phenomenal. Really recommended. Fluttermane, big partner for Zamazenta, because it can also threaten opposing Zamazenta. If they go Terra Dragon, you've got a super effective stab Moonblast. If they don't go Terra Dragon, you've got a super effective stab Body Press, and that's what I like about Fluttermane. It's also a fake out immunity. I love fake out immunities, and I never explained Terra Ghost on Chien-Pao, but fake out immunity. And also against fighting type moves, let's say Choice Scarf Urshifu is locked into close combat, you can shut them down with Terra Ghost on Chien-Pao. Similar to Terra Ghost Chien-Pao, but also different is Terra Ghost Chi-Yu. Choice Scarf Chi-Yu is really good because you have special Dark type that is not affected by Intimidate, and also you have a spread move that can hit Shadow Rider. Because the problem with Chien-Pao is still the Shadow Rider teams have Indeedee, Ogerpon, Amoonguss, and that's why Snarl is really good. And Chi-Yu also threatens Amoonguss once again. Chi-Yu threatens all the Shadow Riders, and also in the mirror it's good in opposing Zamazenta. Chi-Yu plays max speed to outspeed other Chi-Yu, hopefully Choice Scarf Urshifu, because you can KO Urshifu with a combination of Body Press and Heat Wave. You've got Dark Pulse as a single target Dark type move, and Overheat just as a nuke. With this spread, you survive at Surging Strikes if you go Terra Ghost, and that's all there is. It's Chi-Yu, what should I say? As you can see, I'm rushing through with Chi-Yu a little bit because it's nothing special. It's just the most standard Chi-Yu set and spread, and it's Chi-Yu, guys. If you hit your moves, it's good. If you don't, it's bad. That's all there is. Then there's Urshifu Single Strike. Doesn't see a ton of play, but Marcus Dion used it to get finaled into in a regional, a Merida Regionals, I think it was. And with Urshifu Single Strike, you've got a Pokemon that is good into Shadow Rider again. If they have Draining Kiss, you can go Terra Poison. If they run Astral Barrage Psychic, you just do not Terra. And if they are Astral Barrage Draining Kiss, you can wall them with Terra Poison. If you have Zamazenta on the field, you can just spam White Guard Wicked Blow, kind of. Taunt is good to shut down Amoonguss, because Zamazenta really struggles into Amoonguss. What you can do is protect Zamazenta, switch into Urshifu, next turn you taunt with Amoonguss, and boom. Wicked Blow also really helps into Dozo, because Dozo is a really bad mon for Chien-Pao, Fluttermane, Chi-Yu, and Zamazenta so far, and that's why Urshifu Single Strike can also help out in that matchup. And is it Close Combat or a Sucker Punch? Close Combat helps to threaten Terrapagos, and also have another strong fighting type move. Sucker Punch is good into just having a priority, right? But Close Combat is also nice to hit Terra Normal and Terra Dark Shadow Rider, mainly Terra Dark Shadow Rider. If they have a nasty plot up, what you can do is click White Guard with your Zamazenta and Close Combat that slot, and that's why I'm a bigger fan of Close Combat, but Sucker Punch as a priority is nice. With this spread, you survive an Earth Power from Life Orb Landorus, as well as surviving the moves from Shadow Rider better. You get the jump point and attack, but you still outspeed Max Speed Raging Bolt, Modest, Max Speed Timid, Pelipper, and stuff that creeps onto that. So that's why I really like 131 speed. You could run even more. You could run Max Speed so that you outspeed -1 Shadow Rider, but how often do you have Fluttermane Urshifu on the board, where you also get an Icy Wind off against non-cover Cloak Shadow Rider? Not that often, and that's why I think this spread works pretty well. Next up, we've got Tyranitar. Doesn't see a ton of play anymore, but Tyranitar is good to break Focus Sashes. Against Miraidon teams with Focus Sash, Whimsicott, it's really good, but it's again a Pokemon that can threaten Incineroar outside and inside of Terra, because you've got Rockslide or Stone Edge, and you've got Knockoff when it terrestrializes. just breaking focus sashes in general is really valuable. And Zamazenta is immune to the sandstorm, so you get chip damage on your opponent every single turn, and you don't take damage, which is really sweet. Terra Ghost has a fake out immunity, fighting immunity. You survive with searching strikes that way as well. Taunt is, again, shut down Among Us, shut down Redirection, you know the drill. Shut down Will-O-Wisp from Terra Ghost Incineroar, because if both Tyranitar and Zamazenta are intimidated, you cannot KO the Incineroar, but you can taunt them to prevent Parting Shot and Will-O-Wisp, which is really cool. Stone Edge is just a really good single target move, because Rock Slide doesn't deal the most damage, but you also always have flinch odds, right? Tyranitar, I really like Tyranitar, but in the current meta it's not great, because Urshifu has 60% usage, always one-hit KOs Tyranitar, but you can also break the sash from Urshifu, so sometimes it's still a good trade. And yeah, other than that, many teams have just a lot of bulk where Tyranitar doesn't do that much stuff. Like Miraidon now opting for max HP, so your Tyranitar does even less damage into that, and I don't know. I still wanted to feature it because it had some good results. It almost top cut NAIC. It top 16 Worlds, I think. Diego Aguirre used Tyranitar, as far as I know, to get a top 16 finish at Worlds. So Tyranitar definitely a partner you can consider, but it's not great right now. We are just running max speed, max attack, because we've got a focus sash anyways to prevent getting KO'd by a lot of stuff, because we have so many weaknesses: ground, water, bug, fighting, steel, fairy. Tyranitar has just a ton of weaknesses, so be careful, but that's where the sash can help out. And last but not least, a Pokemon that doesn't see any play anymore, but I still wanted to feature because I used it myself to win a regional championship with, Moltres Galar. Similar to Chi-Yu, you have a move, you have a spread move to threaten Shadow Rider with Fiery Wrath. You've also got Foul Play with Black Glasses. It's really strong into Ice Rider. You can also run Safety Goggles if you want a small immunity, but Moltres Galar with Taunt again. As you can see, Taunt, Zamazenta likes Taunt support. It is a Pokemon that can shine. The problem is Terra Fairy and Terra Normal and Terra Dark Shadow Rider are pretty good. You might say, oh, Zamazenta hits all those types for super effective damage, but Zamazenta just gets fake outed, and then you have a problem, because the opponent can just click fake out Terra Nasty Plot into Astral Barrage that KOs Zamazenta, and Moltres doesn't deal the most damage into Incineroar and Terra Shadow Rider. So that's just something to keep in mind, and that's why Moltres isn't that good anymore, because the damage is really weak. But it's a Pokemon that also survives the +2 Terra Fairy Draining Hits from Shadow Rider. So you can set up maybe a Tailwind if you play Tailwind on the third slot. It's faster than Raging Bolt and Pelipper once again. So yeah, not a great Pokemon anymore. Still wanted to showcase it because it won a regional, so maybe you should try it out yourself. Maybe you can cook something with Moltres Galar, because it's just a Pokemon that has a strong spread move. But yeah, not great anymore. But yeah, mainly you see Chien-Pao, Fluttermane, Chi-Yu. These three are pretty much on every Zamazenta team, but there's also some other Pokemon that are very common on Zamazenta teams, so let's take a look. So it's time to look at the flex slot. What does the flex slot even mean? So the most common Zamazenta team is Zamazenta, Chi-Yu, Fluttermane, Chien-Pao, Among Us, we will talk about Among Us soon, and then a 6th slot. And that 6th slot can be pretty much everything. We've seen a ton of different stuff, and these are the 6 that we saw. Like Federico Camporese used Assault West Raging Bolt on slot 6. He also used Ogerpon Cornerstone on slot 6. Some Italian players used Ditto on slot 6 at Worlds. I think Alessandro Fantinato used it. Snow, Tomoyuki Yoshimura used Rillaboom on slot 6. I used Goggles Urshifu Rapid Strike on slot 6. And some players also used Choice Scarf Urshifu on slot 6. So on the most common team, there are like the base 5 and then the flex slot. So the flex slot is a flexible slot, which can be any of these 6. So first of all, Choice Scarf Urshifu. It's the most used Pokemon, and Urshifu pairs really well with Chien-Pao, because against Amoonguss you've got ice coverage, and Urshifu also patches up some things that Zamazenta struggles with, and those are outspeeding Shadow Rider, first of all, and hitting it hard. This is where Urshifu can come in, and it can go for Terra Water Searching Strikes. If your opponent does not have redirection on the field, that's great, because then you can go for Terra Water Searching Strikes into that slot, and they are forced to switch out, and that is really sweet. If they have redirection on the field, it's a different story, but they cannot go for like Protect, switch into their redirection mon, because Urshifu hits for Protect. We all love it. Urshifu is also really good if you pair it with Pelipper. Obviously, you have a Pokemon that abuses the rain, and Pelipper, already mentioned, helps out Zamazenta with a fire weakness. So you have a core of 3 with Pelipper, Urshifu, and Zamazenta as well. So that's where Choice Scarf Urshifu is also played. And we see Searching Strikes, Close Combat, U-Turn, Aqua Jet. Somebody used Coaching once, didn't perform that well, because in theory it sounds cool to coach your Zamazenta, get another defense boost and an attack boost, but then your Zamazenta is still threatened by the same stuff, which is Will-O-Wisp, Spore, Rage Powder, so that's why coaching is not amazing. Aqua Jet, on the other hand, can help out to KO Chi-Yu, for example, because Chi-Yu outspeeds Urshifu, and that way you can prevent Chi-Yu from getting the one-hit KO on Zamazenta with Terra Water, Aqua Jet. I hope I made it clear. But yeah, that's really cool, and it also helps to finish off low-life Fluttermane, because, for example, Fluttermane survives a -1 Heavy Slam. It doesn't necessarily have to, but it can. And that's another point, by the way, why you should play Heavy Slam and not Behemoth Bash, because Fluttermane always survives a -1 Behemoth Bash, but -1 Heavy Slam is close to getting a KO, and then you can pick up the KO with Aqua Jet as well. So these are 2 interactions where Aqua Jet can come in clutch, also helps in Tailwind, obviously, but yeah, this is the spread. I used that, not last year's words, but the words before, because with this spread you survive a Moonblast from Fluttermane, which is sweet. You survive a Dazzling Gleam. If you don't Terra, you survive a Max Special Attack Dazzling Gleam from Fluttermane, if I remember correctly, and in the Sun matchup, it's just important to survive that stuff with your Urshifu, and that's why I decided to go for it. You also survive a Moonblast from Terra Fairy Fluttermane if you Terra yourself, and that's what I like about this Urshifu spread. You still get the bump in attack, and you still have enough attack to one-hit KO Chien-Pao and Ogerpon Cornerstone with Terra Water Searching Strikes. Is Terra Water or Terra Ghost better? Again, depends on your playstyle. Terra Water is nice for the damage boost. Terra Ghost helps to also take Thunderclaps, Grass Glides, and also not be... or you can punish Fake Out counterplay by going Terra Ghost. But yeah, it sounds weird to have a second fighting type on Zamazenta, right? But the problem is Terrapagos plus Amoonguss can be really tough to deal with, and that's why I like Safety Goggles Urshifu a ton. A really, really, really good Pokemon, because it's a Pokemon that can switch into the combination of Amoonguss and Cataract's Ice. So there are not a lot of Pokemon that can do that, right? because grass types get Glacial Lance, non-grass types get Sport. Urshifu resists Glacial Lance and is immune to Spore with safety goggles. And that's why I also like Close Combat a little more than Taunt nowadays, because Close Combat can hit Terra Water Kelly Ice for good damage, while if you want just Surging Strikes and Aqua Jet, Terra Water Ice Rider is still annoying because they just spam Glacial Lance, Pollen Puff, Glacial Lance, Pollen Puff. But yeah, Taunt, again, same reason as with Urshifu Single Strike. Taunting, I talked about it. Taunting Among Us, taunting Trick Room is something you really want to do. I played Substitute at Worlds. I played Surging Strikes, Aqua Jet, Substitute, Protect. And it was just a bait. I just wanted to make sure that players do not click Thunderclap on my Urshifu, because if you just have Taunt, they can still click Thunderclap, because there's not a big punishment if they do that, even if they get it wrong. But if you have Substitute and they Thunderclap against Substitute, it doesn't work. And my play against the Raging Bolt always was to click Body Press Terra Water Surging Strikes, because that KOs Terra Fairy Raging Bolt, but also non-Terra Raging Bolt, and nobody will ever click Thunderclap into me, and it worked. It is high level bait, and it worked really well. And sometimes it can also come up against Among Us Ice Rider teams. Let's say they only have one turn of Trick Room left, you get hit by the moves, then you set up Substitute, and then you can double up on the Ice Rider with something like Surging Strikes Crunch if you have Pow Urshifu on the field. And so Substitute is not completely useless, but also not particularly great, because Taunt gives you more tools, and Close Combat just to still hit Urshifu Rapid Strike, but also hitting, did I say Urshifu Rapid Strike? I meant Terra Water Kelly Ice, but I also wanted to mention Urshifu Rapid Strike, because you have so many Pokemon that cannot hit Urshifu Rapid Strike that well. If you have Chiempao, Chiyu, non-close combat Urshifu Rapid Strike, that's already 3 Pokemon that cannot hit the most played Pokemon in the meta. I did not like that, and that's why I decided to play close combat. And this spread, you don't have to outspeed -1 Shadow Rider, because for myself, I never bring Urshifu against Shadow Rider regardless. I bring Chiyu, Fluttermane, Zamazenta, and then most of the time I bring Chiempao. Sometimes I bring Among Us, because to deal with opposing Urshifu on the Shadow Rider teams, I need Among Us. Among Us is also really good into the Astral Barrage Training Kit set, because you can go for White Guard, Spore, and they cannot hit the Among Us if I click White Guard. But yeah, I like this Goggle to Urshifu because it also helps out against Smeargle. We are 2 points faster than Smeargle, because some players might play 140 speed on their Pokemon, so that's why I have 141. It also makes sure that I outspeed, if I somehow decide to bring Urshifu into Shadow Rider teams, I outspeed Shadow Rider. That's only speed creeping like Chiempao, Iron Bundle, Fluttermane, Koraidon, Miraidon, like 207 speed Shadow Rider. Some might play 209, 210 max, then with -1 they are 140, and I outspeed them by 1 point. And again with 204, 36, I survive Life Orb, Earth Power from Landorus, which helps out into the Justin Tank team a ton. And with 76 Adamant, we still get the jump point, and we still get the KO on Power and Cornerstone with... you can KO Cornerstone with a combination of Icy and Surging Strikes, which is really good, because you don't have to use your Terra for that. And I mean, Icy Wind from Fluttermane, by the way, obviously. Fluttermane, Urshifu in general, a good lead against Ice Rider teams. And you also KO Chiempao with Terra Water Surging Strikes, as well as KOing Cornerstone with Terra Water Surging Strikes. In case they set up Trick Room and you find yourself in the position with Urshifu against Cornerstone, you can just kick Terra Water Surging Strikes to KO them. So you don't necessarily need more attack. And yeah, that Urshifu, really, really sick. Was a ton of fun to play with it during Regulation G, Worlds, EUAC. So yeah, really recommend it. Urshifu, you have a place in my heart. Next up, we've got AV Raging Bolt, the set that Fedecampo used to get top 4 in Birmingham with. And the interesting part is you can, again, you have a ton of variety. You can play either Thunderbolt or Electro Web. Electro Web speed control, as I said, for Zamazenta is always sick. Thunderbolt, just most consistent electric move out there. Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse. Draco Meteor for extra damage. I recommend Draco Meteor because you can KO Among Us with a combination of Body Press Draco Meteor, but you cannot do it with Body Press Dragon Pulse. So that's why I recommend running Draco Meteor on your Raging Bolt. Snarl, Volt Switch, both are being played. Volt Switch good for repositioning, Snarl good for Shadow Rider and just dropping the special attack in general. I recommend Snarl. So if I would choose a Raging Bolt set, it would be AV Terra Electric with Electro Web, Draco Meteor, Thunderclap, and Snarl. But I understand why people also just want to run Thunderbolt because, as I said, Thunderclap is not a consistent move. Volt Switch, always being forced to switch out if you want to click an electric type move is not amazing. And Electro Web is just not as strong. So, yeah. I also understand Thunderbolt. Terra Fairy helps against Dragon types flipping the matchup chart. Also against Koraidon. Resisting collision course or close combat suddenly is really nice because do they click their Terra Fire Flare Blitz into your Raging Bolt? Not necessarily, so you at least have the option. But boosting up your electric type moves can also help out. I don't know what it is. Nowadays I have more problems with my voice. Maybe I have to check this. But I still want to finish this video today because you deserve it and I really want to showcase all sides of Zamazenta. But yeah, let's get back to Raging Bolt. Where did we stop? I explained the moves, I explained the Terra types. I think now it's about the spread. And this spread is phenomenal because you can bring Raging Bolt in the Ice Rider matchup because Terra Water Ice Rider does not want to face down Raging Bolt. Same thing with Terra Water Among Us. And you can force a Terra with stuff like your own Urshifu, you can force a Terra Water on the Kelly Ice. Or with Champo, you can force a Terra Water on the Among Us. And with this spread, you survive a Glacial Lance from Champo, you survive an Adamant Icy Crash, you survive a Glacial Lance from Ice Rider and an Adamant Icy Crash from Champo. You still get the bump and special attack. And you have 105 speed, which is really good to outspeed -1 Kyogre, because -1 Kyogre has 104 speed. If they are max speed timid with Mystic Water, you can go for something like Electro Web into Draco Meteor, or with Flutterman you Icy Winded them and then you outspeed them with Raging Bolt as well, which is really nice. Phenomenal spread. I really like Raging Bolt a ton. Not a big fan of AV Raging Bolt in the filler slot because Chiempo, Chiyu, Zamazenta and Fluttermane, all 4 get hit by Spore. And if the 5th is your own Among Us does not threaten opposing Among Us, you really want the Spore immunity. And that's why I'm not the biggest fan of Choice Scarf Urshifu and AV Raging Bolt, but more of Goggles Urshifu. But there are even 3 more Pokemon that are immune to Spore that you can pair Zamazenta up with. There's Rillaboom. And Rillaboom, you do nothing wrong with Rillaboom. Rillaboom always helps out your team. I really like Assault Vest Terra Fire Rillaboom, and as you can see, this spread is different than all the other Rillaboom spreads I featured, because with this Rillaboom, you target other stuff. What do you target with this Rillaboom? And usually you play way more special defense investment, you play maybe more speed, maybe you play max special defensive, but why does this AV Rillaboom have 196 attack investment? The reason is that you can get KOs you should not get with this Rillaboom. Let me start this way. If you get an Icicle Crash off with your Champo on Terra Fairy Miraidon, then it is in range for a Grassy Glide. You can KO Focus Sash Tornadus with Grassy Glide and Heavy Snap. If you have Rillaboom Zamazenta on the field, the double up KOs Tornadus, Grassy Glide, Heavy Snap. Otherwise, your Rillaboom maybe has to take a Hurricane from Max Special Attack Tornadus, which is not great. Grimmsnarl, another Pokemon that is really annoying for Zamazenta, because it can set up Reflect, it can paralyze everything, but with a combination of Fake Out, Heavy Slam, Grassy Terrain Recovery, and Grassy Glide, you KO Grimmsnarl every single time, no matter how it's trained. You can also KO Grimmsnarl with Grassy Glide, Heavy Slam behind Reflect, if I remember correctly. You can KO Fluttermane with Wood Hammer every single time, so that you can also prevent Thunder Wave on your Zamazenta. Like if you lead Rillaboom Zamazenta, you can click Protect Wood Hammer, and then Fluttermane just drops. While some other Rillaboom, I also saw some Rillaboom playing Careful Nature. You don't necessarily want to KO Fluttermane, which is a little sad. And you just you can KO Urshifu Rapid Strike with Sword of Ruin, Grassy Glide, and the damage output is just insane. And you don't need a ton of special defense, because, in my opinion, Rillaboom is not necessarily used in Shadow Rider matchups. Rillaboom is used in Miraidon matchups, but your Miraidon matchup is good with Focus Sash Champo, Zamazenta, Amoonguss, and Rillaboom. You don't need a max special defense Rillaboom to take on the Miraidon better. Instead, you want a Rillaboom that can deal more damage to Urshifu, Iron Hands, Farigiraf, and that's why this Rillaboom is trained more into attack on Zamazenta teams. So that's just something you gotta keep in mind. Do not just recycle EV spreads. If you change your restricted, make sure that you understand which spread you really need if you also change your restricted. Because you might just slap your Shadow Rider Rillaboom spread on this Zamazenta Rillaboom spread. Do not do that. Use this spread instead. And then we've got Ogapon Cornerstone, and this spread looks a little sus. Ogapon Cornerstone is really good. Again, you have double sash action with Champo and a sturdy Ogapon, but you can redirect spores from for Zamazenta from Amoonguss, and Ogapon Cornerstone is just a really good Pokemon if you paired with Fluttermane and Chiyu again, because Fluttermane and Chiyu struggle against fire types, because both fairy and fire types are resisted by fire types, but this is where Ogapon Cornerstone can come in and click super effective Ivy Cutcher, right? I decided to invest this Cornerstone so that it survives in Terra Water Searching Strikes from Urshifu, so it can redirect the move twice, because as I said, if you have Chiampao, Chiyu, Fluttermane, and Zamazenta also doesn't want to take Searching Strikes, this Ogapon can come in clutch and redirect two, not just one, two Terra Water Searching Strikes, and you still have enough attack to deal as much damage as possible. I wanted to run max speed to outspeed our Ogapon, and as I said, redirecting Terra Water Searching Strikes is important, and that's why we have this much defense. And last but not least, we have Ditto, Safety Goggles Ditto, sometimes Choice Scarf Ditto is a good partner as well, because the most tricky matchup is Shadow Rider, but with Ditto you can copy the Shadow Rider and reverse sweep them. The problem still is if they are Terra Normal, clicking a Stride Rush gets a little tricky. And Safety Goggles Ditto is really good into Ice Rider, because you can copy the Ice Rider and you are immune to Spore from Amoonguss, so you can start snowballing yourself with Ditto. You can also just copy Kyogre as well, really good in the Kyogre matchup. Cormine Kyogre mainly. We saw how Eric Rios piloted it, so yeah, Ditto, really good Pokemon if you just want to stop setup. It is just very tough to play, and since the team does not feature any momentum like U-turn or Volt Switch or Parting Shot, it's really tough to position your Ditto correctly. That's why I'm not the biggest fan, but I still wanted to feature Ditto, because we've seen it with some good success in the past. So if you want to use Ditto, go ahead. Just make sure to use the correct Terra. Terra Normal helps so that your opponent cannot spam Astral Barrage. Terra Ghost as fake out immunity, and boost your own Astral Barrage as well also works. But yeah, I talked about Among Us a lot, so we should definitely take a look at Among Us now. So yeah, let's take a look at the other partners that Zamazenta can have. First of all, Among Us. Among Us is so incredibly good as a partner. Why? First, Spore and Rage Powder. Among Us is the second most used mon on teams in general. When you see day 2 graphics, it's always on the top, and that's because of its typing and its move pool. Spore and Rage Powder are obviously good supporting tools for Zamazenta, but since Urshifu is just such a big problem, I mentioned it, this dies, Among Us completely blocks Urshifu, can break the focus sash with Walkie Helmet, and it also creates a speed sandwich against Kelly Ice teams, which means that if they don't set up Trick Room, your Among Us is not faster, but your remaining Pokemon are faster, and if they set up Trick Room, your Among Us is faster. You can Spore the Kelly Ice, so that is cool. You have a really good typing into other common Pokemon like Raging Bolt, which is a little annoying for Zamazenta because Terra Fairy, as I said, is tricky, but you can go for something like Protect Body Press if you expect Draco. If you expect Thunderbolt, you can go for Protect Spore. You can go for Rage Powder to redirect all kind of priorities that are heading into Chien-Powers, Chinus, Fluttermane's way, because they are very susceptible to priority moves, right? And Among Us is just such an offensive and defensive good Pokemon, because also Walkie Helmet Incineroar saw some usage now, and you can redirect the Incineroar the whole time. You don't have to worry about Terra Ghost Will-O-Wisp if they have Walkie Helmet. Among Us can sponge the Will-O-Wisp against Grimmsnarl as well. You can sponge the T-Wave against Fluttermane. You can sponge the T-Wave. Like, Among Us is the status sponge. All the status moves can get redirected to Among Us, and you can keep your Zamazenta safe that way, because Zamazenta is very susceptible to status. You don't want to be parried, you don't want to sleep, you don't want to be burned, you don't want to be frozen, I guess, but like all status are bad for Zamazenta. And not so much for Among Us. Yes, full para is always a thing, but at least the speed drop doesn't really matter on Among Us. And the other things like burn, okay, chip damage, but that's still better than your Zamazenta being burned, right? And that's why Among Us is this status sponge that can always, it has always value just because of Walkie Helmet as well. And I really recommend running Sludge Bomb. I understand the thought of Clear Smoke, because Dozo is a bad matchup. It is super bad, and running Clear Smoke can definitely help that matchup a little bit. But Sludge Bomb just pressures Ogerpon a lot more. It pressures Rillaboom, it pressures Incineroar, and I'm such a big fan of Sludge Bomb. You can also one-hit KO Whimsicott with it in the Miraidon matchup. You do more damage to Terra Fairy and Miraidon, right? And that's why you either give up with the Dozo matchup if you play Sludge Bomb, or you are worse in every single other matchup if you play Clear Smoke. That's just something to keep in mind. And then Protect Pollen Puff. I don't know. I do not recommend running Pollen Puff, because Zamazenta teams are meant to be offensive, okay? And you can only Pollen Puff your own Zamazenta, I feel like. The other pieces, I mean, you can see it on my screen. Which of these Pokemon do you really want to Pollen Puff? And the Pokemon I mentioned before, I guess, I don't know, AV Raging Bolt? But I just do not like Pollen Puff, because I think your supporter always should have Protect, because otherwise they can always double that slot, they can taunt it without any issue, and that's why I'm a big fan of Protect, and Pollen Puff not so much. This spreads 48 speed to make sure that you underspeed Iron Hands, Kelly Eyes, and all that stuff. Among Us also a phenomenal Pokemon against Iron Hands, by the way. In the Miraidon matchup, like Champao, Zama, and Fluttermane are all not bad. They do good damage, but they all take a lot of damage. And Among Us can just, even if you cannot spoil an electric terrain, just the Rage Powder option is phenomenal. Anyways, as I said, the speed is for that, and the defense makes sure that you survive one Glacial Lance, because sometimes you could say, oh, you can just White Guard and switch into Among Us if Trick Room is up, but your Zamazenta might be asleep because your opponent has Among Us and Kelly Ice, right? And maybe you want to switch your Zamazenta into Urshifu, or you want to switch your Zamazenta into Among Us if the other Pokemon on the field already is the Urshifu. You want to switch into Among Us but not die to a Glacial Lance. So that's why I chose this kind of spread all the time, because surviving an Icicle at Glacial Lance is really important. Terra Water or Terra Dark? Terra Water is the better choice overall. Terra Dark helps into Psy Spam stuff, as well as being immune to Prankster Taunt and Prankster Anchor. Yeah, Terra Dark is just a little worse into fire types though. Terra Fire Ivy Catcher can always head your way, and Terra Dark is also not an ice resist against Ice Rider. With Terra Dark you get hit by a lot neutrally, and also you suddenly are weak to Urshifu, which I personally do not like. But if you wanna run Terra Dark, go ahead. Pelipper, also really good partner with Rain and also the offensive pressure Pelipper offers. Safety goggles, because as I said, you want something that pressures Among Us, but that also can switch into Among Us, and that's where Pelipper comes into place. Also good to have a second wildcard user, because either your Zamazenta goes to sleep, or you want to click Body Press with your Zamazenta and you don't want to be forced to always click Wildguard with your Zamazenta if you want to block the spread move. And with Pelipper and Zamazenta, your Kelly Ice matchup gets so good. And I decided to run this spread to make sure that we outspeed pretty much every Incineroar. We still have a jump point and a special attack, and we still survive a Dark Pulse from Chiyu, as well as a lot of physical moves. I think we survive a +1 Glacial Lance from Ice Rider, actually. So yeah, Terra Grass is nice to get a Grass Resist, because our weapon Half Flame, for example, could click Terra Grass Wood Hammer into your Pelipper, and then it's over. You also get an electric resist against stuff like Raging Bolt, which is pretty sweet. Protect or Helping Hand. I like Protect a little more. I also played Helping Hand. If you have Scarf Urshifu on the team, I recommend Helping Hand, because then you can get to damage that is really absurd. But if you don't have Urshifu on your team, you should always want Protect, because what are you going to click Helping Hand on? Helping Hand Body Press? Nah, like having Helping Hand for Urshifu is smart, but on the other slots it doesn't make as much sense. So yeah, Pelipper, just a really good partner. Another Pokemon that can be paired up with Pelipper is Landorus. And Landorus, which Terra do you want to play? Do you want to be Terra Water to survive the Searching Strikes? Do you want to be Terra Fairy so that you shut down Miraidon a little more, and you have a good type into the Single Strike Urshifu as well, or Terra Poison to boost up Sludge Bomb damage and get a Grass Resist. That's on you. Which one you like the most and again, which Pokemon do you struggle against the most? For me, it's Urshifu Rapid Strike, and that's why I would run Terra Water, but maybe for you it's different, so these are the 3 Terra options, in my opinion. You could also, I guess, run Terra Steel to also resist Fairy, but at the same time not be weak to resist Fairy, but at the same time also resist what was the other thing? With Terra Steel, you also resist. I know that you resist grass, but you also do that with poison. There was one big Dragon, yeah, Draco Meteor from Miraidon, obviously. So Terra Steel is also an option, but not a big fan, honestly. With that spread, you survive. You outspeed Smeagol by 1 point. You survive a Terra Stellar close combat from Urshifu if you go Terra Water. and you still get the bump in special attack. I always run this Lando spread, really good one. You can also run max speed if you want to outspeed Chi-Yu, so you run 150 free speed, but then you have less bulk. You cannot drop more special attack than that, so this is how the other spread would look like, so that you outspeed Shadow Rider when they are -1. Questionable if you really bring Lando as well, but if you do, you could run this spread, because you can also outspeed Scarf Chi-Yu after an Icy Wind, or you outspeed Sash Chi-Yu, Modest, though, that's on you. Next up, Entei. I played Worlds with Entei, and Entei, as well as Dragonite, we can talk about them both, because they are kind of this Terra Normal E-Speed bot, and that is so good into Shadow Rider teams. Why? The reason is that you have, with Fluttermane, Entei, or Dragonite, both have inner focus, you have 2 fake out immunities on the team, so if they lead with fake out and you lead with both your fake out immunities, you just chill. You don't have to worry about fake out at all. And with Terra Normal, on both these Pokemon, you make sure that Shadow Rider only has a single target attack move with either like Psychic, Psyshock, Draining Kiss, or a Straw Barrage, because a Straw Barrage, if you go Terra Normal, also only hits 1 Pokemon at the time. And the other cool part is that E-Speed goes before Follow Me from Clefairy or before Rage Powder from Amoonguss, so it kind of prevents redirection as well. And if you can force the Terror on the Shadow Rider with Fluttermane, Chiempo, Chi-Yu, I don't know, you have so many ways to force a Terrestrialization on the Shadow Rider to Terra Normal, Dark, Fairy, whatever, then your Terra Normal, maybe even Sword of Wind boosted E-Speed, just obliterates Shadow Rider. It can survive one, I know that, but it did so much damage, and that's why it's just such a good tool into that matchup. Why do I prefer Entei above Dragonite though? Because Dragonite has more attack, right? I really like that Entei doesn't just work as the extreme speed bot, you have better stat moves. Sacred Fire and Flare Blitz are better than Aerial Ace and Outrage, and the speed step from Entei also allows you to outspeed Shadow Rider, so you can -1 Shadow Rider, so you can click Icy Wind, Flare Blitz, and KO Shadow Rider that way as well. You also outspeed Uchi for Rapid Strike. Dragonite has the better defensive typing into Rapid Strike though, so that's something to keep in mind. I like Stone Edge more than Double Edge or Giga Impact. Giga Impact was fun because with Terra Normal, Sword of Wind, Giga Impact, you can one-hit KO Ice Rider. If they go Terra Water, they think, oh, Terra Water is so safe, there's Shampoo, there's Entei. Terra Normal, Giga Impact, one-hit KOs Ice Rider. And the combination of Crunch and Terra Normal Double Edge also KOs Ice Rider. So that is cool, but I really liked that Stone Edge gives you the opportunity to one-hit KO Incineroar with Sword of Wind, or if they are specially defensive, you can also one-hit KO them without Sword of Wind. And you hit Ogerpon Half Flame for super effective damage, always. If they go Terra Fire, you hit them, and they can only go Terra Fire, they cannot Terra to a different Terra type if they are Ogerpon Half Flame. And you also hit Calyrex Ice Rider, if they are Terra Fire, you also hit those for super effective damage as well. And that's why I liked Stone Edge a little more. Terra Normal with another normal type move, the Double Fire, Double Normal is funny for sure, is also an option. Why even Flare Blades if you have such a strong move in Sacred Fire? First, the extra damage is really cool. Second, Sacred Fire only has 8 PP, so if you play against a Pressure Mon, you might run out of Sacred Fire. Third, accuracy. Sacred Fire only is 95% accurate, Flare Blitz is 100%, so if you just have to get this one KO, Flare Blitz is better, and that's why Entei is my favorite. But Dragonite also really good with Outrage, Aerial Ace, and Stomping Tantrum. It has the better defensive typing for Urshifu, but not the better defensive typing for something like Calyrex Ice Rider, right? But it is also pretty much the same. It's a Terra Normal E-Speed bot with the option to also click Outrage or Aerial Ace, sometimes Stomping Tantrum as well. I chose 112 speed. You can run even more speed if you want to, but I thought Terra Ghost Chiyu with Focus Sash is a thing, right? And that's why I thought it could come up that I get an Icy Wind off on Chiyu, and then my Dragonite has to outspeed the Chiyu to get the KO with Outrage, for example, and -1 Chiyu has 111 speed, and that's why I thought 112 speed is good, because you also outspeed Paralyzed. If you have Thunder Wave somewhere or Tailwind, you outspeed Shadow Rider, and Choice Scarf makes Speed Element Paralyzed, or in Tailwind. So Choice Scarf Urshifu makes Speed Element has 223, and in Tailwind you have 224, or Paralyzed Urshifu has 111 speed. So that thing you outspeed and also makes Speed Shadow Rider, same conditions. So that's why 112 speed is my go-to. You can also be a little faster, like 116 to outspeed... what was it again? No, 118 it was, to outspeed Choice Scarf Paralyzed Timid Kyogre. Like, Timid Kyogre has 156, with Choice Scarf 234, with Para or with your own Tailwind you need to have more than 117, so that's why 118 is good. You also outspeed Modest Pelipper that way. So again, you can get a little creative in your speed stat. If you want to outspeed Ogapon after an Icy Wind, you can run 119. If you want to outspeed Tornadus after an Icy Wind, you can run 120. That's all there is to Dragonite. And then Latios, the last partner, doesn't see a ton of play anymore, but I also won a regional with Latios. Luster Purge, Draco Meteor, Tyrant or Terra Blast, and Protect. What makes Latios so good on Zamazenta teams? It threatens Amoonguss, it threatens a ton of damage into Incineroar, it's a special attacker, it hard walls Landorus Eye, which can be a problem for Zamazenta. If you are Terra Steel and have Levitate, you hard wall Landorus Eye. It's a Pokemon that's really good into Kelly Ice with either White Guard support, or if you Terra because you're immune to high horsepower, and you get an Ice Resist if you Terra to Terra Steel or Terra Fire, and that is really, really cool. It's a Pokemon that also threatens Raging Bolt for an OKO. If there's Shadow Rider with just a Sword Brush Psychic, you again can click White Guard Draco Meteor into those. Really, really good partner overall. Just because it threatens all the Pokemon that threaten Zamazenta. Soldew or Life Orb. If you don't run Terra Blast, you should run Soldew, but if you run Terra Blast, you should run Life Orb, because if you run Terra Steel, Terra Blast, you can one-hit KO Fluttermane, you can one-hit KO Terra Fairy Shadow Rider, you can one-hit KO Terra Fairy Raging Bolt, and that is really, really cool. You can also run Terra Fire, Terra Blast. That way you pressure the Zamazenta and the Mirror. The problem is you are most likely going to be slower, and if you play a Latios, by the way, maybe you can adjust your Zamazenta to be slower than your Latios, because against Amoonguss you want to Luster Purge before the Body Press also gets redirected into Amoonguss, right? So that's something you can consider. But yeah, Terra Blast Fire on Latios makes sure that you also threaten stuff, like you have a defensive Terra against Groudon as well. I guess you don't have to Terra against Groudon, but you against Fluttermane Groudon, for example, Terra Fire is really good, or against Fluttermane Chiyu, Terra Fire helps out a ton as well. But offensively, you threaten a ton of damage into Zamazenta, as I said before, but you also threaten a ton of damage into Kelly Ice, so that you can KO them with Terra Blast, Body Press. But did you know that Draco Meteor with Life Orb and Body Press also KOs Kelly Ice? So that combination is really strong. And they cannot go Terra Water against that combination. Terra Grass doesn't work. And against Terra Fairy, if you want Terra Steel, Terra Blast, hey, you have a good time. So yeah, that's all about Latios. I really love Latios, but power creep is really hitting it a little bit. But maybe someone can bring Latios to Stockholm. Please, someone, Stockholm? I won Stockholm with Latios last year, so maybe you should bring Latios to Stockholm this year. Maybe. I don't know. But let's take a look at the last partners I can feature you today. Last but not least, we gotta talk about the Ting-Lu Dozo core, because this was the core that had the best result in EUIC. Wave Osborne piloted Ting-Lu, Dozo, Zamazenta to a top 16 finish at EUIC, so we should take a look at them. First of all, Ting-Lu. Ting-Lu is a good partner for Zamazenta just because it offers taunt support again. You hate to see it. And we also see Sand and Nation Protect on it. Walkie Helmet Ting-Lu can prepare the field early on so that you can sweep with Zamazenta, because in general, as I said before, Zamazenta is a Pokemon that does not like to switch out, because when you lose your defense boost, Dauntless Shield only activates once per battle, and that's why you want to stay with Zamazenta on the field. And if you can prepare a board where Zamazenta just comes in and wins the game instead of just leading with Zamazenta and then losing Zamazenta early on and then somehow try to win, it's better, because then your restricted actually does something in the end game as well, and not just stay there in the early game and then die, right? So that's why Ting-Lu Dozo is just a really good core to prepare this kind of end game, because you can lead Ting-Lu Dozo, chip down your opponent, and then you have Chien-Pao Zamazenta in the back, and you put your opponent to sleep, and you do a lot of damage with Ruination, and then you just have to click Crunch, Body Press, and win the game. Because Zamazenta is fast, Chien-Pao is fast, both also survive a move, Chien-Pao with a Sash, Zamazenta because it's Zamazenta, so yeah. But Ting-Lu, first of all. Terra Fairy or Terra Poison, both are good. You really want a fighting resistant Terra for opposing Zamazenta as well as Urshifu, because if they have to click Surging Strikes into you, they take Walkie Helmet 3 times. So that's really good. And the only valuable Terras are Fairy and Poison. You could also consider Ghost, but the problem with Ghost Terra is for against Urshifu Single Strike, they always have a super effective hit into you. Same thing for Chien-Pao, and that's why Terra Ghost is not as good as Terra Fairy or Terra Poison. Terra Fairy can also help if you face down a Miraidon. Do I really want to click Draco? I doubt it. But Terra Poison can help you get a Grass Resist, because if you have Dozo and Ting-Lu on the field, having Grass Resistance against stuff like Rillaboom or Ogerpon could help out a ton as well. Sand Tomb is good, especially if you pair it with Yawn Dozo. You can click Sand Tomb, Yawn, protect, your opponent is asleep, they can't do anything. Keep in mind that ghost types are not trapped though, so you cannot go for Sand Tomb, Yawn into Shadow Rider and then expect them to stay. They can switch out, still not a bad option. Taunt is a little better than Stomping Tantrum, I would say. Stomping Tantrum is good though if you just need damage, because you want to prepare the field, right, for Zamazenta. But Taunt can shut down Amoonguss, because the problem is if you have Ting-Lu, Dozo, and Zamazenta on the team, 3 Pokemon that struggle against Amoonguss is not great, especially if all of them can get Sport as well. And that's why I think Taunt is the better choice. Ruination and Protect are pretty obvious why they are on the set, right? I decided to go for the first jump point in defense. 261 HP is the HP stat I was looking for, because I wanted to play as much HP as possible, and then a lot of special defense. Why Impish instead of Careful? Our defense base stat is so much higher than the special defense stat, and that's why it makes more sense to play a defense boosting nature, because it takes 10% of a stat, right? And as you can see, our defense is still way higher, even though we invested a lot into special defense, and that's why you should run an Impish Ting-Lu. Pairs very well with Walkie Helmet as well. Then Dozo, the partner. Fissure is really good if you just have Pokemon on the field that you cannot really hit, but you get the opportunity to not just click Fissure once, you can click it twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, I don't know, because against opposing Dozo, for example, if they already are in the Tatsugiri mode, if they are trapped on the field, +2/+2/+2, you can Yawn, then you can click Protect, and then you can Fissure. Let's say you don't hit, then you Yawn again, Protect, Fissure, Fissure. You will hit 1 out of 8 for sure. You can also Fissure Amoonguss, just Pokemon that stay long on the field that you just want to get rid of. And Unaware, Oblivious are both being played. Oblivious is really good against Taunt and Intimidate, but Unaware is way better for Calyrex, Shadow Rider, Zamazenta, Ogapon, Halflame. If they Terra, they do not get the boost, or they get the boost, but Dozo ignores the boost. So I really recommend Unaware, honestly. And again, we play a lot of special defense because we lack special defense, but I still wanted to get the Impish Nature. I went for the first jump point. I went with 256 HP because that's the next leftovers number, and 17 speed EVs because I wanted to underspeed Kelly Ice, because Kelly Ice again 49 speed, same speed as Amoonguss. You don't have to, because even if they set up Trick Room, Ting-Lu and Dozo also are not bad in the Trick Room, so you can also run 31 speed, no harm done there. If you just have a 31 speed IV Dozo, you can also play that one. I just thought it is nice to create this little speed sandwich again. Next up, Ogapon, Halflame. Both moves are being played, Woodhammer and Hornleech. With Ogapon, you really want to outspeed Kyogre, because Kyogre can definitely be a problem. Even with Zamazenta, you might say, oh, I have White Guard, but Hydro Pump Kyogre exists because of Zamazenta, and that's why outspeeding Kyogre can be really valuable. Also, Groudon, just being sure, or just making sure to outspeed Max Speed Groudon is also nice. If you face down, I don't know, Choice Band Groudon. This investment makes sure that you survive a Searching Strikes from Urshifu. Was it Terra Water Searching Strikes or just Searching Strikes? One out of these two. You can calculate yourself. I don't quite remember which one it was, but you survive Searching Strikes. You can also survive a +2 Astral Barrage from Shadow Rider with Ting-Lu on the field, with Beads of Ruin, and you can KO them back with Tarfire, Ivy, Cudgel. Adamant is the nature we are playing, because once again, the attack stat is just the highest, and that's why I like Adamant. You can also run a Jolly Ogapon, but then your damage is really, really weak. I still wanted to KO Amoonguss after an Intimidate with Terrafire, Ivy Catcher. Like, you get the Terra boost, but not the attack boost, you know? You one-hit KO Amoonguss, you one-hit KO Urshifu with Terra Hornleech, you one-hit KO Kelly Ice with Tarfire, Ivy, Cudgel, all that stuff, you know, and that's why Adamant is better than Jolly in my opinion. And last but not least, Raging Bolt, Booster Energy and Life Orb. Life Orb is not played on Ting-Lu and Dozo teams, it's always Booster Energy there, but I still wanted to feature Life Orb because some other Zamazenta teams play Life Orb. Terra Fairy, Terra Electric are both good, Fairy defensively, Electric offensively, obviously. The spread. In my opinion, with Booster Energy, you should run a bulky spread, because this spread is almost as bulky as the AV spread. It has a little more special attack, as you can see. And Glacial Lance as well as Adamant Icicle Crash still only have a 6.25% chance to KO. 1 out of 16 times it happens. That's still something I am willing to take. And you can still survive a +2 Astral Barrage with Ting-Lu on the field. Depends on the Shadow Rider item, obviously, and on the investment, but you can survive it. And 20 speed to outspeed only 4 speed invested Raging Bolt, because, for example, Wolf's World's Raging Bolt had 4 speed invest. And you usually don't have speed control on Ting-Lu and Dozo teams, so you don't have to worry about what if I have Thunder Wave, Icy Wind, Electro Web. You don't have all that stuff, and that's why you just have to make sure you play a speed stat that works well into boards without any like speed drops from like other moves, okay? And that's why I thought 98 is good. If you run a Life Orb set, without Ting-Lu and Dozo, if you run a Life Orb Raging Bolt, you can also run max speed, because as I said, Raging Bolt can be annoying for Zamazenta, so you should run max speed Raging Bolt so that you outspeed opposing Raging Bolt for sure. You can play max special attack to deal as much damage as possible as well, but there's a spread I found recently that I liked a lot, and it was this one. I think this one survives a +1 Astral Barrage from Shadow Rider, and that felt pretty good, okay? And this is the Life Orb spread I really recommend. You don't invest a lot into HP because you would take more damage every single turn. You always take 20 HP. If you play 0, yeah, you take 20. If you play 36, you take 20. You can play up to 209 to not take more Life Orb damage. You can also play like 120 speed, then 209 HP, and then almost make special attack. You can get a little creative with Life Orb, but with Booster Energy, you should focus on your bulk a little more. So yeah, these are all the partners. Let me know what your favorite Zamazenta partner is. Let me also know if I missed a partner, because as you can see, there are not as many partners as for other restricteds, because Zamazenta is more one-dimensional, because there's also just one Zamazenta set, right? But if you have any more partners, I can comment on all of that. If you can just ask me, what do you think of Pokemon X and Y? I can answer that in the questions and in the comments below. But there's still one thing we should take a look at, and these are the matchups that Zamazenta has against the other restricteds. So let's do this one. Wow, I am so surprised to see the win rates from Zamazenta. Like, what? Okay, so let's get right into it. So this is EUIC, by the way. These are the EUIC results. So not that long ago, not even a month ago, Zamazenta was able to beat 48% of her Calyrex. So slightly disadvantaged, and it is correct that Zamazenta has a tricky time into Calyrex. Depends on your Zamazenta build though. I would say with a lot of Ghost Hate, like as I said, if you put Chi-Yu, Fluttermane and Xianpo on your team, it is definitely doable. But then you have to make sure that you don't get KO'd by the Urshifu on the Shadow Rider teams. But I would still say that Calyrex Shadow Rider was playable, and 48% is like not terrible, right? So I guess it checks out. Calyrex Shadow Rider is really a Pokemon where you have to make sure that you don't overcommit to the Shadow Rider. You should not bring all Chi-Yu, Fluttermane, Xianpo, because when you lose to Rapid Strike. You have to find a game plan where you can beat both Urshifu and Shadow Rider at the same time. Don't fully commit on Shadow Rider. Maybe this is what a lot of Zamazenta players did. They only thought about the Shadow Rider and not about the rest of the Shadow Rider teams. But that's what I think, at least. I would say Shadow Rider for me is like 50-50. But seeing that it is a slightly disadvantaged makes sense. If you just take a look at Zamazenta against Shadow Rider, who beats, like, against Terra Fairy Shadow Rider and Terra Normal and Terra Dark, you have super effective moves with Zamazenta, and you can block Astral Barrage with Wildcard, but once they are +2, they can one-hit KO your Zamazenta, so it's definitely tricky. But then, what surprises me the most is the Miraidon win rate. 45% is criminal, because I would have said that Zamazenta is the best restricted into Miraidon, and that is like so surprising to see, because I almost never lost to Miraidon. Maybe it's because of my team, but Zamazenta and Xianpao alone are two Pokemon that are insanely good into Miraidon, and then you just paired with either Fluttermane or Rillaboom or Amoonguss. Like, there are so many tools. You can also bring Entei, just go for Terra Normal E-Speed, because if they bring Farigiraf, they need Tailwind, so they need Whimsicott, Farigiraf, Miraidon, and then they only have one of Hands or Ogerpon, and if they didn't bring Ogerpon, Amoonguss looks insane. If they didn't bring Hands, the Zamazenta looks even better, so I'm just so surprised to see that Zamazenta performed so poorly against Miraidon. Because for me, Miraidon is something I would always take as a Zamazenta player. So I would say, like, the statistics say Miraidon is a bad matchup, but for me, Miraidon was always a matchup I really liked to face. Next up, Kelly Ice, slightly positive. Obviously, Zamazenta itself is good. All the Zamazenta partners are good into Kelly Ice, like Chiempao or Chiyu or Amungus with a speed sandwich once again. So that checks out, 52%, yeah. Zamazenta against Zamazenta is obviously 50%. One will lose, one will win. Terapagos is only 53%. Again, if you don't have Goggles or Shifu, Terapagos can get tricky, for sure. But you can also just beat it by spamming Snarl with Chiyu. Just Snarl body press, right? So, I'm not surprised to see a positive win rate against Terapagos. Because players are forced to not bring Terapagos. This new Terapagos team has a good matchup into my team, at least. The one with Heatran, Screamtail, because they will not bring Terapagos, they will instead bring Terra Fairy Heatran, combine it with Screamtail and Incineroar. That way you can intimidate the Zamazenta so that Heavy Slam and Behemoth Bash do not do as much damage. And with Anchor and Disable, you cannot play defensively against the Heatran, and they can trap you, and when they Anchor you, they disable you. Like Screamtail Heatran is really good into Zamazenta, because after -1, they can always lead with Incin, intimidate your Zama if you lead with Zama, and then both Screamtail and Heatran Screamtail doesn't take 50 and Heatran doesn't take anything at all. Body Press does more to Heatran, and like Body Press does 25, I would say, against Heatran. So that team has a good time into Zamazenta, but other than that, the other Terapagos teams just get farmed. I played against like Fluttermane, Urshifu, Ogerpon, Halflame team twice, and they didn't have any fun. It was not a real game because the matchup was just so one-sided. Kyogre is also positive. I also see that because, again, you can lead Chiempao, Zama, and just spam Ice Spinner, Body Press. It's pretty easy. You go Terra Dragon with your Zama in that matchup. Ice Beam doesn't do as much as they hope it would, and with Goggles, Urshifu, Rapid Strike, I also got a really good matchup into the CM Kyogre stuff, so I'm not surprised to see a positive matchup there. Koraidon negative, yep, because the problem is, if you are Terra Dragon Zamazenta, Fluttermane Koraidon always can double up on your Zamazenta. Chiempao also doesn't really threaten Terrafire Koraidon that much. Chiyu doesn't threaten Koraidon at all. Amungus gets one-hit KO'd. So yeah, Koraidon definitely not a good matchup. I gotta say, I'm really happy that I didn't play against Wolf, because Sash Fluttermane especially, Sash Fluttermane plus Koraidon, definitely not fun. And you can, I guess, the Zamazenta versions with Pelipper are slightly better, but even that, like, Pelipper takes so much damage from Fluttermane. Also, there's maybe an Ogerpon Cornerstone, a Raging Bolt waiting in the back. So, you need Pelipper for sure to make this matchup somewhat playable, and then you have to play really well on top of that. So, I would say Koraidon, not a good matchup. Groudon, a 60% win rate is a little surprising to see, because Groudon teams, if they have Jump Love, it is annoying because, as you saw in the team building part, most of the time you have 4 Pokemon that are susceptible to Spore, sometimes even 5, and with Jump Love, it's the same thing, but it's not Spore, it's Sleep Powder, and it's a fast Sleep Powder, which you just cannot stop. So if they hit Sleep Powder and they get good sleep turns, you just lose. Same thing with like Koraidon Venusaur. There's just one Koraidon Venusaur. If they lead Venusaur, they click Sleep Powder, they connect all their Sleep Powders, you sleep 3 turns every single time. Yeah, good game, I guess. But with Groudon Jump Love, it's pretty much the same. At least Groudon is not as threatening as Koraidon for something like Terra Water Amungus. Koraidon does way more damage into that, and you can block some moves with White Guard as well. So, I'm not surprised to see a positive win rate against Groudon, but 59% is way higher than I anticipated. So I thought it would be like 50 to 53, but as you can hear, like, all the matchups are around 50-50, right? It's not as polarizing as Terrapagos or maybe Miraidon is also very polarizing in the matchups. I would say Zamazenta is pretty much 50-50 against the top of the top. So if you're looking for neutral restricted into pretty much everything, then I would really recommend running Zamazenta. I would say Zamazenta is doing worse and worse. I'm happy that I was able to showcase the strengths of Zamazenta. Maybe someone can get a regional win with it. I would say Zamazenta is a Pokemon that will do good overall in every tournament. Like day 2 easily, top cut as well. But winning a tournament with Zamazenta is harder than in the beginning, obviously, because now people will have their anti-Zamazenta tags. What is your favorite anti-Zamazenta tag? Is it Heatran Screamtail? Is it just something plain like Terragos, Will-O-Wisp, Incineroar? Or how do you deal usually with Incineroar? Yeah, how do you deal with Incineroar? That's also a good question. But how do you deal with Zamazenta? That's what I wanted to ask. Let me know down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed today's Ultimate Guide video. As always, I invested so much time creating like all these movesets, finding out what players played. So if you would give this video a like, it would really mean out a lot. And that would also show that I should continue this series, because there are still some restricteds I haven't talked about. So if I should continue this series, show this to me. And that being said, which restricted should I cover next? Maybe Cataract's Eyes, maybe Terrapagos. Let me know down. I cannot talk. I think I should just finish the video. See you next time, and until then, bye bye.